Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen, and this is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. I want to extend my gratitude in you listening to this podcast. It means everything to me, and I hope it is clear that this subject matter is so important to me. I care about our people, our future, and making a positive change in this nation.
This episode is powered by Poddex.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. Today we have a special guest, author and screenwriter James Rodman from New Jersey. James is the author of My Butterfly, which we're going to discuss today. James was inspired by Maya Angelou and James Baldwin. He is currently working on the screenplay and another book and play project for 2022. I'm glad to have James on to share his story with the listeners today. His story is very thought provoking, and I especially enjoy the arts, and I especially appreciate those who step out on faith to make their dreams a reality. So I'm definitely glad to welcome James to the show. Welcome to the show, James.
Hello, Jen. Thank you for having me.
Yes, definitely. And so, yeah, we're here to talk about My Butterfly. Glad to have met you virtually here and want to have the book digging in, and we'll be finishing it really soon here, and I want to share with others. So we want to let people know about the book and your journey, and those who may want to get in writing their story, because this is a story based on your life, right?
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was definitely inspired by the things that happened in my life, the events that I was going through, learning about love and relationships since childhood, watching marriages, older people in my family. You know, you watch a lot of things as you're a kid coming up, and you materialize what you want from a relationship from the experiences you have as a child growing up. So I really felt it was necessary to write the book because a lot of men, we don't get the credit for wanting to be in love like women. We want to be in love just like women do. We
Okay.
just express it a little differently. So I said, let me write it from my perspective and the things that I went through, and my engagement on TV, et cetera, and all that. So I wanted to just, give my rendition of what I felt love was about.
Awesome. And so, what do you want? You've kind of touched it there, but what do you want the reader to take from this love story?
Actually, there are some mistakes that I want them to see, and hopefully they'll understand them and probably avoid them if they're like a younger crowd.
Hmm.
Some mistakes I made coming along, as an adult or growing into being a grown man. You idolize the wrong people, you might do the wrong things, and you never know where kids get their influence from. It could be radio, television, other family members, friends, people in school. You never know where the kids actually get their influences. So I
Right.
really thought it was important to put some things in there that would show the readers that influences can come from any and everywhere, and they're very crucial to how we form our mindset.
Definitely. So, you're talking about people learning from mistakes, and you kind of touch on that in the book. And so, I wanted to dig into that a little bit here with the next couple of questions. In the story, the lead character, which is inspired by you, has a sexual encounter at a very young age with an older woman. You mentioned that. This was something that happened in your life. Do you feel that a lot of black men have experienced something similar? At what point did you realize that, this was not, a normal scenario, or like someone taking advantage of you?
Well, actually, at the time it happened, I was 11. I thought I was actually doing something. I thought it was me. I thought I was in charge of the actions that were going on. But because she's the adult and I was the child in the situation, she was responsible and she was in control the entire time. I
Hmm.
really didn't understand it to be molestation in a sense because I thought I was initiating, I thought I was making it happen. But once I became a parent later on in life, I realized how important it was for her as an adult to straighten that situation out. And she didn't. She let the situation happen. And a lot of women, you asked about Black men in that experience. A lot of men have gone through that and
Mm-hmm.
probably keep it to themselves like I did for so many years. And it happens, it happens. And it's worse when it's actually, I'm not going to say worse, but when it's a young lady and it's an older male, it's worse in my mind, because when I told my story, I started talking to people and they started coming to me with their stories, and the women have
Mm-hmm.
stories that were heartbreaking. I mean,
Yes.
so many girls have so many stories about the uncle, the next door neighbor, and some of them were even the father. It bring you to tears to know that the stuff that people go through in their families and inside the closed doors. So I'm glad I exposed it in my book about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expose the woman because, like I said, I didn't want the legalities to come back and get me. But I definitely put that in the book to try to help someone else who may understand that situation.
Right. And I want to get your take about what you thought about other black men going through something similar. There's been a few celebrities that have touched on it. I don't know if you recall the Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club mentioned something similar in his book, growing up being
Hmm.
molested by a family friend that was a
Hmm.
female, and then there was in the news about the rapper, was it Bootsy, having you know, arranging for his son to have a sexual encounter with an older woman. What do you think about things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a topic that needs to be discussed because it's happening. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, it's been happening. Recently, it happens. So right now, there's somebody going through that. There's a kid that's going through that. There's an adult that hasn't told that story who's going through that. I mean, it's definitely something like R. Kelly. Even when the R. Kelly documentary, you find out that his older sister was molesting him and his brothers.
Right,
I
right.
mean, it's a
It's really
it's a lot
tragic.
of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you what brought tears to my eyes too. The movie, I can't think of the name. It was Denzel Washington. He's a army corporal.
Oh, Antoine Fisher.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Antoine Fisher. And in that movie, when that little boy keeps getting molested by that grown woman, that's what reminded me of my situation. But the difference was, I thought I made the situation happen because it was something I want.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
Okay.
still molestation, no matter how you,
Right.
how you look at it. So,
Definitely.
and when I became a parent, that's when it was obvious to me that it was a lot of wrongdoing going on in that situation by the adult of that situation.
Thank you for sharing that. And then also in the story, you describe an incident where you were involved in a domestic violence exchange.
Mhm.
You acknowledge that it being a mistake right away in the story. What do you think triggered you in this way? And what did you learn from that moment?
Well, that was the part when I discussed earlier about a kid idolizing the wrong person coming up, and you never know where those influences come from. So when I was a kid, I had an uncle who he would hit his girlfriends, and because I
Okay.
was always hanging with him and I idolized him, I thought that that was normal. So if they get out of line, you hit them. No one was there to tell me like, don't do that. No one really. I guess they didn't think it was necessary to show me the differences between what he was doing and what was proper. So I grew up thinking that you swing first, because I had girlfriends that would swing first. So I wasn't the only one that was in that mentality. It's where we grew up. Everybody wanted to fight. The kids wanted to fight. The girls wanted to fight. The boys wanted to fight. So it was like it was became a normal thing when it's actually such an abnormal thing.
Okay.
And what happened with me and my relationship, we had an abusive relationship that was misguided by the words of love. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't hit her, she didn't think I loved her. She would be like, "You don't, you didn't get upset. You weren't jealous, so you don't love me." So in my mind, I used to think, you show them how you love them, you know, physically hurting them, which is
Really?
crazy. It's crazy, but I
Okay.
had to unlearn that, and I had to redirect what I wanted out of my life, because I made that mistake when I put my hands on that young lady in public, and my life could have taken a wrong turn to the hundredth power in the worst way, but I
Mm-hmm.
was lucky enough that it didn't. And I changed my life about that. And I never really dealt with domestic violence. And I'm an advocate for women who are enduring domestic violence. And I teach young guys, no matter what you're doing in life, do not put your hands on that woman. And there are a lot of guys that still think that the physical violence is a part of a relationship when it's really not. It's really not.
Right, right. And thank you for sharing that too. Both very personal moments. And I think, someone could definitely benefit from hearing you share that and may have went through something similar. So I think it's definitely important to share our stories as African Americans. So I definitely, I'm glad that you shared your story. And there's also a part in the book where you talk about infidelity in your relationships. What did you learn from those experiences?
Well, I put the two biggest examples, both my grandfathers, my mother's
Mm-hmm.
mother, my mother's father and my father's father, where their relationship was highly affected by children outside of the wed, like children outside of the marriage.
Okay.
And for my mother's father, it automatically caused a divorce situation between them. And for my father's father, it was just a situation which caused a lot of strain on the marriage. So I never wanted to be that kind of person, to be in a marriage or a relationship and have kids outside the marriage, because I saw what it can do, and how it destroys families, because everything you do as a married man in a relationship affects an entire family and then some. So you never know who you're affecting when you're doing these things and cheating on your wife, and you got a woman over here. And I put that in the book so men will start realizing we have to be more responsible, more dedicated to what family is as a structure, as opposed to what we want sexually with some woman down the street that can wreck it all for us.
Okay. Definitely. Good point there. Okay, and so we'll shift here a little into the content creation. So you self published this book, and
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about what others who are content creators in the space, what advice would you give for those who want to write your story? I saw some of your other interviews where you mentioned some of the, I guess, feelings that you had sharing your story, writing your personal story, and sharing it with maybe like your family, or what advice would you give to others?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You have to be cognizant of people's feelings when you're telling your truth and your version of actions that happen. And as long as you're genuine and you're telling the truth, people can't be mad at you. But they may want to, or make you feel as though they want to give their rendition, because there's three sides to every story. You know how that
Okay.
goes. And as far as self-publishing, I would recommend that anybody, being a content creator, author, own your own. In other words, own the rights to your story, own your own. Because when it's time for the money to be made, it's
Mm-hmm.
still a business. Books are a business. Content creation is a business. Everything, wrapped up into whoever you are as a brand is a business. So you don't want to have a great success story, but everybody else made the monetary gains from your success story. So
I
own
see.
everything. A lot of people want to jump to a publisher, but a publisher, if you go to a publisher and you don't self-publish yourself, you give away a lot of your rights from the door for them to endorse you. So you have to know exactly what you're giving away, because you can
Mm-hmm.
you can give away your movie rights in your deal. Your deal may be a cheap deal, $2,500, $3,000 deal, but you gave away
Mm,
your movie rights.
right.
So you gave away $1 million worth of movie rights for 25 or $3,000, and you won't know that until it's time to make the movie. They'll have you given credit for it all, but then when the money gets paid out, it goes straight to your publisher.
So it's
So you have to be
definitely
careful. You have to be careful.
worth it, you would say, to own and go the self publishing route or independent
Um,
route, right?
Independent, yeah, I would, because that's what I did, and I'm up to about 7,500 copies right now, and doing well with my book, and still pushing. I'll be happy when I get to 20,000 copies.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is, even if you do a publisher or somebody's helping you, at least know the legalities and what you're giving away, because you can negotiate how much you're giving away. You don't have to give them everything. You can give them 20%. Most times people sign away 100% of everything and they don't even know it because they really
Right.
don't get a lawyer to go through the fine print. That's
Mhm.
very important. So know exactly what you're giving away when you're signing these deals, because a lot of them, they're giving you the money up front because they know that if it just happens to pan out to be a great event or a great project, they will benefit far more than you will. So that's why they give you the money up front.
Oh
So
wow.
just be cognizant that it's all a business and you have to do business. Even though you're having fun and you're following your dream like I am, you still have to do business.
Good stuff. Okay, good. Definitely good advice there for our listeners. Next, a few fun questions from the good people at Poddex who
Okay.
have some questions for podcasters to use. So I thought we would share some of that as we wind down the year. And can you believe the year's almost over? It just
2021 is
it
almost over.
just doesn't seem real. Well, actually, this may be January when this airs, depending on how things go. But yeah,
Okay.
so we'll have fun with this. So this first question is: what famous person's memoir would you love to read?
Actually, I read a couple of things, but I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings was from Maya Angelou.
Hmm.
So originally it was a memoir, but that stuck out in my mind, and I've read it a couple of times because it was very powerful as an eighth grader. I read that in eighth grade. But I
Yeah.
mean, I would love to know LeBron James's story in the sports realm,
Hmm.
because I think he doesn't get the credit that he deserves for the things that he does for his community, his people, his surroundings, and his own family. So I would love to read his memoir if he ever comes out with one. I would definitely check that out.
That would be interesting, especially how like they documented him when he was what a teenager, and they made that
Yeah,
whole documentary, and they followed
yeah,
him around. So that had to be pretty interesting to be like they knew that he was gonna be like as huge, at a very young age. So
right,
yeah, that
right,
would definitely be a really good story to read. I know I'm interested in that Will Smith that just
oh,
came out.
right,
Would
right.
that sounds like a good one. Yeah. And okay, so moving right along, what do you think is not fair in today's society?
In terms of society as a whole, or society in how I look at it from a black community and a black perspective, what do you want me to break down here?
So, however you want to interpret it. So, just what do you think is not fair?
I mean, we can get as in depth as the healthcare system, and when you
Hmm.
go to the emergency room, they don't have a cure for things other than surgery. Everything is a surgery when there are things that can be done without surgery, but the hospitals make enough money where they just project surgery for every answer, even
Mm.
cancer, whatever it is, they just know surgery, surgery, surgery. And even if they give you an aspirin, it's priced at 10 times what it would cost if you bought it yourself over the counter. So it's all a sham. That's very
Oh
unfair.
yeah, I was just talking
And
about that with my last guest. How, yeah, the pharmacy companies and how they price things, and it's really outrageous. So yeah,
right.
I hear you on that. Let's throw another one in. What is the main thing that influences your decisions?
Well, I'm a family man first, mentally. I'm a father, and I'm a grown, proud African American man. So every decision I make sure it goes through the process of who will it affect and how will it affect them. So that's just the way I do my decision making. And usually, as a grown man now, I'm close to 50, or I'm 50 actually. I just turned 50 in 2021.
Uh-huh.
So, as a grown man with experience and time behind me, I make the decisions carefully and thought out, as opposed to rushing to make a decision that you will regret later. Because I don't live to regret decisions these days.
Okay, and I think you answered this next one. That'll be our last one. Do you like to plan things out in detail or be spontaneous?
I do a little bit of both, but planning things
Okay.
out in detail is a better way to construct your successes, but spontaneity can bring you more success than you ever experienced if you have that spontaneous side. So
Okay,
that's
so you
that's
have
my
just made some decisions. Say, oh, let's just go with it.
yeah. I just took a chance. Let's just take a chance. Let's see.
Yeah, okay. I do that from time to time too, and then sometimes I'm like, okay, why did I do that? So yeah, well, thanks for having fun with us on that. Let us know how people can reach out to purchase this book, My Butterfly.
Okay, they can reach me on my website www.authorjamesrodman.com. I'm at author James Rodman on Instagram,
Okay.
and at author James Rodman at gmail.com is my email address. So Google me. Matter of fact, I'm so proud. Once you Google me, I come right to the top. So I used to be at the bottom. Now I'm hot. So
Uh
I'm
oh.
right at the top. Yeah. Just
That's
Google My Butterfly by James Rodman, and it'll give you all
okay.
the information.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have actually told a few people about the book. So yeah, so your Google has been hit.
Okay. All
I've told
right.
some people about it. So yeah, I will have those links posted, guys, so we can support this brother. I really, believe in what you're doing, and I appreciate the work.
And I love what you're doing, and trust me, you're very, very influential. And 2022 blessings are gonna come left and right. I pray
Thank
for it.
you for saying that. I appreciate that. From your ears to from your lips to God's ears, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Anything else to share?
I just want everybody to realize that this thing goes by fast. So even if
Hmm.
you make it to 50 years or older, it goes by fast in the scheme of when you sit back and look at your past. So enjoy every day, every minute, every hour. Enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming through Woke by Accident podcast, and you're welcome here anytime. And we hope
Okay.
for the best with everything you're doing.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you, and God bless.
Thank you, and thank you guys for listening.
This episode is powered by Poddex. Poddex are unique interview questions and episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. So whether you're a new podcaster or an existing broadcaster looking to take your interviews and podcast episodes to the next level, you're going to want to check out Poddex. Visit poddex.com to get your Poddex today.
At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out and also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms, and please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.